Here is this week's meat haul, or I'm going to call it duck haul because it's all about the ducks. Take two. I've just recorded this once, except I didn't record it because I had hit the wrong button. Really annoying. So let's do it again. Let me give you a show and tell of the things that I just showed you. These are magret de canard, otherwise known as duck breast. These are the choice bits, the premium bits, the bit that go for the most per kilo, and are very delicious. Nice lot of fat. See the fat on the bottom there? I think I've mentioned before, just cook them in a frying pan. I like my heavy cast iron pan on quite a low heat. Skin fat side down, and it just slowly renders out and still leaves a nice amount of fat, and the skin gets lovely and crispy. And I just keep on basting the meat on top, flip it over at the end to your desired cookingness. I can't think what the word is, but you know what I mean, whether you like it rare, medium, well cooked, whatever. The most popular way here is rosé, which has a nice blush to it, which is how I like mine cooked. Next up is what gets done with the rest. Basically, they've taken the magret. What I forgot to mention, of course, is the liver. So they've taken off the foie gras, and most of it probably is foie gras. I'm not a big fan of that. I realise I'm completely hypocritical because I'll eat the rest of the bird, but I also just don't particularly like it, to be perfectly honest. But I certainly don't really like the way they're force-fed, although by all accounts it has greatly improved, a bit like the veal industry, and it's nowhere near as bad as it was, and they have a good life. Well, they're still alive, obviously. Anyway, confit. So the rest of it is cooked up. These are manchons. These are basically the drumsticks, but they cook up the legs and the thighs in a method we call confit, which is basically just cooking them in the fat. So what happens is all that moisture gets trapped into the meat, so it's very, very tender. And then you can also store it. As you can see, that had a load of fat, but it's a good way of preserving them. So they have these jars here in France. It's a duck region where I live, ducks and walnuts, which go very well together. And I have a few walnut trees in my garden. But the duck gets stored in these jars, so the meat gets layered up with the fat, and then a good thick layer of fat on the top, which seals them in, keeps from any air getting at the meat and oxidizing it and making it go bad. They would store those in the cellars over the winter. Stays nice and cool, stays covered in the fat, which obviously goes solid. And then when they wanted to eat them, they would just pull them out and then render that fat off by cooking them in the oven or cooking them in the pan, crisp the skin up. Very, very delicious. Next up is what I call Parma duck. It's basically just cured duck breast. Give you a better look. So you can see that's part of a duck breast there that's been smoked or cured in some way, and then they'll add, it's like some will have different spices, pepper, all sorts of things, and smoked on different woods, although it's normally hêtre, so beech. It's normally smoked with beech. And then it's sliced up and served up in all its deliciousness, and it is very delicious. Last but not least, these are a recent discovery of mine, gratin de canard, which translates as duck scratchings, and they are the same as pork scratchings. I don't know how many of you are aware of what pork scratchings are. If you're a Brit, you'll be very familiar. I believe Australians know about pork scratchings. They are what I kind of call the floor sweepings. Bum holes and piss flaps, probably. No, they're not really. but bits of, you can see here, look, skin, but it has the fat still attached. So unlike, I'm talking about pork scratchings here, but unlike pork rinds, which is just the skin, which is dried out and fried, so it's very puffy and light, isn't it? And you can grind it up and make flour. Well, and these are very much like the what I think of as pork scratchings, which still has some of the fat attached. So it's crunchy, but it's much denser and almost a bit moist because it has that fat attached. We also call it pork crackling. I think Americans know about cracklings. I think maybe that's what it translates as, your cracklings. It's very delicious, and you can hear, I have crunch one. I don't know if you can hear that. You're outside, but quite crunchy, very fatty, very delicious. They've been seasoned and they're yummy. First time, I've lived here for how many years? A good 15 years. First time I've come across them. Very delicious. And their serving suggestions are ideal for adding to salads or as an accompaniment to your aperitifs. So civilized in France, and it always comes back to wine. They quite often call it, you quite often get invited round for an apéro, which is an aperitif, so a drink basically, but will be served with some snacks, and often turns into so many snacks that it's basically a meal. But they have a recipe suggestion here: salade Quercinoise. Quercy is the area I'm in, and they suggest a green salad with their gratin de canard, obviously, magret séché, so that's this is the smoked, dried or smoked duck breast, with gésier confit, so confit gizzard, walnuts, and fromage de rocamadour. Rocamadour is a local village, very, very beautiful, on a cliff and in an area where a lot of goat's cheese is made, and they're little discs of goat's cheese about that big, about that thick, called cabacu. But if they are particularly made in Rocamadour or a certain radius out of Rocamadour, because it has an AOC, they can be called specifically Rocamadour, and they're very delicious. Go very well with walnuts, go very well with duck. So as you can tell, very nice salad. I've had quite a few dishes like that in my time. As I said before, it's a duck area. When I first moved here, I ate it all the time and just ended up having a bit of a surplus of it and getting sick of duck. But I left it alone for a while, and I've come back to it again, and I'm enjoying eating duck again. From a carnivore perspective, a lot of carnivores end up just wanting red meat. For me, duck almost falls into that category. It's a very rich meat, and I think it adds variety for those who find carnivore a bit too restrictive and like eating all the meats. I know some people just lose the taste for some of the other things like chicken and pork and what have you, but I've been enjoying a wide variety, so it was nice to find all the duck things, and I will enjoy them, especially my new favorite thing, duck scratchings. So I'm going to go and munch away on those again now. So what do you think? Do you enjoy duck? Can you get it easily where you are? I know it's not always available, but it's really delicious and very fatty, great for keto, great for carnivore. Tell me what you think. I'll see you next time.